Hey everyone, I'm going to bring you a tutorial on how to play Sona for newbies. A quick disclaimer, what makes a really good Sona player, apart from an okay Sona player, is how to utilize her power chord. Now to be honest, I cannot use her power chord very effectively. If you look at the bottom left corner of the screen, here's what power chord does. After 3 spells, her next auto attack will do damage and additional effect based on what aura she has playing. So if you have your Q aura up, the power chord will do additional damage. But if you have her W aura up, it reduces an enemy's total damage output by 4 seconds. By 20% for 4 seconds. Now that's the big one right there. In the lane phase, you ideally want to have that power chord up and use it on the opposing carry to reduce his damage during a fight. As far as runes and masteries go, I have support masteries and some mana regen and AP runes. Ideally, you would consider using gold per 10 runes and perhaps cooldown reduction or mana regen runes as well. But I haven't really had the influence points to invest in good runes for support, so I kind of almost use my generic AP mid runes for my support. Which, you know, it basically helps me do a little bit more damage because I start off with 15 ability power and some cooldown reduction and mana regen. So there's no goal per 10, but it's a thing that you would consider if you're going to play supports a lot. Okay, let's jump to the start of the game now. My team decides to play it safe and protect our jungler and the blue buff. What is really good about the support mastery tree is that you start off with a 60-second ward and an HP and mana plot known as the cookie, or biscuit, I'm sorry. What I find best to do in this situation is use the 60-second ward and put it down in an entry point to where the enemy team might come and try and contest our blue buff. Now in this case, I would put it here in this bush. And because it only lasts 60 seconds, I would suggest putting it down after the 1 minute mark of the game. This will give you ample time before and after the blue buff actually spawns to alert your team of an invasion from the enemy. If you don't know, the blue buff spawns at exactly 1:55 of the game. And there's me putting the ward down to alert us. Now, if you look on the map, obviously the enemy team is just protecting their blue buff. But if they haven't, and they decided to come up here and around, we would have been alerted and we wouldn't have given up first blood. That is the best suggestion I can give you for the start of the game if your team decides to play it safe and just protect the blue buff. As far as starting items go, I'll make it pretty simple. You pretty much always want to start off with 3 wards and 3 health pots and the fairy charm. If you have 3 wards, each one of them will last 3 minutes, which gives you a total of 9 minutes of war time, which should take you up to about the 10-minute, 11-minute mark of the game. Now you'll see me feed first blood here, but that's not the point. You basically want to ward just right here. This is, in my opinion, the best spot to ward. If you are on the blue side, I feel that you need to ward here and also the tri-bush here. Because on the tri-bush here, if you're pushed up in the middle of the lane, the enemy jungler can come down through here and from behind and gank. But since you're on the purple side here, they can't really come in for the tri-bush and gank from behind unless we're really far pushed up. So as long as you do a good job and your AD carry knows how to keep the lane in a stable position right here in the middle, the only place you really need a ward is about right here. I did feed the first blood and I could have gotten away with a flash, and it was a mistake not to use it. However, the enemy Graves had to burn his flash in order to kill me, which puts my lane at an advantage. And it's always good to alert your jungler when an enemy in the lane uses flash or sets down wards and where. Because since the enemy Graves used the flash and my jungler comes in for a gank, he knows that he can't flash away and get out. So he's automatically an advantage to get a kill during the gank. So always try and pay attention as a support to who uses a flash and where they set down wards. Now I didn't see them set down this ward because they set it down before I was even in the lane. So I had no idea that they warded, but always keep track of where the enemy is putting down wards and alert your jungler so they know. Real fast before I jump into specifics on how to play Sona in lane, the number one thing you want to do is never kill creeps or auto attack them in the lane. You want your AD carry to grab all the creep kills to get the gold and to buy items. The AD carry is one of the most important roles on a team by sitting in the back and doing the most damage. Now playing Sona sets up for a great poke lane. Here I level up Q first and try to harass with it anytime I can. Typically early on the enemy has health pots, and they'll burn through those health pots fast. If you harass them well, they'll be forced to go back to base and allowing your carry to free farm without any danger. Harassing really well also sets up your jungler for easier ganks. If he comes in while the enemy team is at half hit points, the chances of getting a kill is greatly increased. In this lane, they have an enemy Tark, whose main purpose is to throw down a stun and set up Graves for an easy buckshot. Ideally, what Sona wants to do in this situation is counter harass with her Q. Now look here, Draven is going to get a little too close and Tark's going to go in for the stun. Graves is going to dash in and try and get a buckshot off on Draven. He's a little bit slow, but ideally what you're going to want to do as Sona, like I said, is go in and get that Q off to do that harassment. Now if you had power cord up, you would also use the power cord and get additional damage done, which as I said before, I'm really bad at. So here's what's going to happen. We'll take a look in slow motion. Draven gets too close. Tark sees it. He goes in for the stun. Right now, I'm back here. Graves is going to go in. He's going to dash right here. I turn around. I get the Q off and the damage from my power shot or auto attack. I think it was actually power cord, which was actually really good. Now he's going to get away because Tarek exhausted Draven, which is fine. But Graves is going to have to leave the lane and allow my Draven to get free farm. This is ideally how you're going to want to counter harass when Tarek goes in for the stun. Is always be in range and get that Q off on Graves to just basically counter harass that damage while Draven's stun. A good Draven or any other AD carry will also turn around and do damage while Graves has to run away because Graves dashes in to get the power or to get the buckshot off. That's basically how you're gonna want to do it throughout most of the laning phase. Watch for ganks, like Cho'Gath's coming up here, but so is my Trundle. So we have a little skirmish up here. Graves is super low, so he can't go in. He gets a stun off, so I don't need to go down and counter harass. I'm just gonna come up and try and help Trundle get Cho'Gath. He's going to get away because we all get knocked up here. But you get the point. That's basically how each lane phase is going to want to work out. You're going to want to Q that, always ward, counter harass, and protect your lane partner, or in this case, your AD carry. Okay, I jumped ahead to level 6. I'd already went back and bought items. I turned the Fairy Charm into a Philosopher's Stone and buy as many wards as you can. When you get level 6, you get your ultimate, which will stun everyone it hits for 1.5 seconds. If your lane partner has a stun as well, in which my case, Draven has a knockback, which is like a half a second stun. Now you're going to see him use it here on both Graves and Tarek. Now I'm a tad bit slow, but I do manage to get both Graves and Tarek in my ulti to stun them both and allow my Draven to as much free damage as he can. He is, however, going to have slightly bad focus, and he's going to kill Tarek first, while Graves is going to end up killing me. So here I get stunned. He comes up. Right there. He knocks both of them up, stuns them both. I was a tad bit off, but I did get both of them. Kills that. I get ignited. I try and get back after I exhaust Graves, but he's going to ult me and kill me. And Graves is actually going to manage to get away. But that's essentially what you want to do each time, is to get your stuns together, or if you don't have both stuns, then use yours at the most opportune moment when your carry isn't running back or, not paying attention. You want to make sure that when you use it, your carry is going to be ready so he can initiate on it. Now it is a little bit hard, but you just have to kind of watch his playstyle a little bit in the beginning of the game until you get that level 6. And that's going to maximize your guys' lane power and allow you to win the lane, which here we are actually winning. My Draven has 60 CS, the Graze only has 4. Now Graze has 2 kills, whereas my Draven only has 1. But overall, we are winning our lane. There are 2 things you need to focus on during a team fight. Number 1 is protecting your carry. Number 2 is stunning the enemy carry with your ultimate. Each team fight is going to be different, and a good player will assess the situation and determine which will be the better option. If your carry is getting dove on, say by a Nocturne or a Flashing Alistar, then you want to protect that carry in any way you can. If your team is initiating, however, and let's say no one really goes for the enemy carry, you're the next line of offense to get to that carry, stun them with your ultimate, and have your team kill them. Here, my team initiates without me and tries to fend off the enemy push. Our Draven is still running up from the jungle, but my team goes in anyway. Even though we're outnumbered, the enemy team falls back, but Graves remains untouched as my team goes for Cho'Gath hard. The enemy Lee Sin is going to join the fight, as does our Draven. As soon as he joins, the enemy team is going to turn around and initiate on him. Graves remains untouched, but as I come closer, they're all going to bunch up, and I'm going to use my ultimate and hit every single one right here. Now sadly, Draven is retreating at this point, and Trundle and me are going to end up dying. Even though Draven was not ready, you normally have to assume that he is going to pay attention and make the right plays. You did your job by hitting everybody on the enemy team, including the Graves. If Draven was in range during my ulti and picked his targets wisely, the fight would have been much easier. As you see, he went for Targ first instead of hitting the Graves. Although he did go for Graves after Targ, it was still a little too late.
Purple team double kill. Purple team double kill. Purple team triple
The last
kill.
thing we are going to cover is how to ward properly and how important it is to the success of your team. It is pretty crazy how important warding is. It's the simplest thing, but it can really win the game for you. Where you want to ward is really going to depend on how the match is going. The place you always want to have a ward on after the 20-minute mark is going to be Baron Nashor. He spawns at 15 minutes of the game, but very rarely is he killed before the 20-minute mark. Dragon is also a place you always want to ward whenever you know he is about to spawn or is already spawned. He spawns at 2 minutes 30 seconds and respawns 6 minutes after he is killed. Since we are ahead and we have 2 towers up in top here and the mid tower, the place I ward is the enemy's jungle. So we can try and pick off a player that is unaware. We have a ward here by the blue buff. Ideally you might want to put in the bush, but I was a little scared of getting too close. And either this bush here or this bush down here. And then always the bush right here by the wraiths. The other places I have warded too is the river bush here and the river bush here. So you can see how much actual map that we can see. So if any of the enemy team is going to come through here or come down over here or by the blue buff, we'll know about it and we can track the enemy's whereabouts at all times. Now if we were on the defensive side of things, warding your own jungle, say here, or down by your blue buff over here, will allow you to deny the enemy the element of surprise, and you can win the fight that ensues afterwards. Thank you for watching my support Sona tutorial series. Supporting is always a role that most people dislike doing. But the truth is, supporting is just as important as any other role in the game. A good support can win the game for his team with proper warding and protecting his own players.